Welcome to the Devil's Podcast. I'm HeYamin.
I'm Andromeda.
And today we are talking about
Necromancy.
The crypts of the dead. We summon you forth. So, we're going to talk about necromancy. And we're going to probably talk about it in many different ways. Because there are many different ways to look at necromancy itself.
Mm-hmm.
To start at the basics. I mean, necromancy is technically any black magic when you're looking at it from that lens. Because necromancy, looked at from the perspective of the olden days, the 14th century or something like that. We're looking at like nigromancy, which is black magic, and they titled that into necromancy.
Mm-hmm.
And so they took a thing that was, a little bit different, and they, working with the spirits of the dead, working with the spirits. And when you're doing that work from that lens of grimoire work, what they consider black magic, you're conjuring spirits of the dead. You're conjuring spirits, of old gods, basically.
Mm-hmm.
But they call them demons, and as labeled by those working with the church, they were demons. They were, this, that, the other thing. There's a lot of grimoires that will talk about it in the form of black magic, in the form of conjuring. Yet you're conjuring archangels, so it's like you're conjuring angels and archangels and your holy guardian angel. But I know it's for like defense or whatever, or protection, or as in the Grimoire of Solomon or the Key of Solomon. Yet you get into like elucidations of necromancy or the Grand Grimoire, and you're not really doing it to that extent, or even Grimorium Verum. Stuff like that, the True Grimoire, where it's like you're working directly with these entities, and you're calling upon even greater entities to call upon lesser entities. And it's not like, and that's technically what we're looking at when we're looking at archangels or angels being called, and in like Heptameron or Heptamerion, however you want to say it, what's in necromancy, the elucidations of necromancy or something. And when you're looking at that, it's like you're just summoning the archangels of the hours, of the days, to summon the ones of the hours, so that, and you're working with, the airs, and you're working with all these things so that you can bring about, intense change for whatever reason that you're seeking. Or just courting, because when you're using the lesser key system, and this is just grimoire necromancy, we'll get into other stuff, but when you're working with like the lesser key, you're calling upon different courts and different beings, and you're working with them for, to teach you things, or to understand things, or to do things, for, to gain access to the ability to do something. Like learning or technique, or just the basic knowledge, or how to finding a teacher, what have you. So in the physical world, or finding a teacher in the spirit. So when we look at the grimoire version of what we're looking at for necromancy, it is literally just summoning, conjuring beings, whether, and that's just looking at it from the lens of black magic, which black magic could also be, it's et cetera, the like doing baneful magic or what have you, which is another form of what people would call necromancy, is baneful magic, when it's, and Andromeda, you can talk on the I've talked enough about grimoire magic, but when we're looking at necromancy from the stance of, how we more or less work it in a way that's, and it's being worked in multiple ways, but working with the dead.
Yeah. I mean, I actually go to cemeteries and do work in cemeteries. And something I've realized over time is that a lot of the books that I was reading were saying, like, oh, just go communicate with the spirit and gain like their permission to get the dirt from the you know the grave. And then there's you know a specific way to go about it of you want to gather it from the feet of the grave, I believe. I always get mixed up whether it's the head of the grave or the foot of the grave, but
you can collect it from the feet or the
yeah,
head.
but if you need them to go and do things for you, you want to gather it from the foot because they're going to be, especially with Baneful magic.
Yeah, movement.
Yeah, but something that I wasn't prepared for was that they're going to create a contract with you that if you do this, if they do this thing for you, they expect you to do something in return. And I actually learned the hard way that they will siphon off your energy, because that's the first thing they're gonna want is energy. You know, yes, you're going and offering them an alcohol like rum or something. Sometimes they want whiskey. Sometimes they're okay with just coffee or water, but the first thing they're going to want is energy. And it can become very dangerous, especially if you're simply going to a graveyard and collecting dirt from the gate or section like front or back or side of the graveyard. You're not just collecting dirt, you're collecting the spiritual energy of the beings who are buried in the graveyard. And I actually learned the hard way that they will drain you of energy, and they will sometimes wreak havoc in your life. I wasn't prepared for that because no book that I read goes into detail on creating a contract specifically. So,
or an agreement.
Yeah, an agreement of some type. So it was actually a really good learning experience. I got lucky that I didn't have anything absolutely horrible happen to me, but you know, I was following a book where you're supposed to gather dirt from 9 different graveyards, and the author was just like, oh, just gather it, you know, offer a gift of some type and then gather the dirt. And I was going about it, and then I was not doing well, and I realized that it was the dirt. So I think,
and also
I think that's a pitfall, because people who write these books on necromancy need to be putting extra information on that in there.
Yeah, and also, like, when you're working with spirits of the dead, especially, you're taking on the traits of, like, if they had melancholy, if they were prone to anger, if they died in a horrific way, if they, if they were poor, if they never amounted to anything in their life. I'm not saying, you should shame them. I'm just saying, like, these are facts of, like, if these people didn't, like, if they were alcoholic, you might pick up tendencies to use alcohol more and more. And if they died of strange diseases, you might have that too. And it's like, as we work with the dead, so to speak, I don't collect dirt because I know if I needed to, I would. There's reasons to do that, but the work I do is with the spirits themselves. I don't really need a link the same way that most people do to work with these beings. And I'm not saying, oh, I'm special. Well, I mean, everybody's special, but it's like, My experience, I can from my work, draconian work, I can open a portal and work with these beings. Bring in spirits and do the things I need to do. Um, and then I close the portal and they go away. you know.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is like when you're working with dirt specifically, and if you have something of theirs, if you have like a trinket of some sort, or you have like skeletal pieces or ashes or something, that can affect you. Like if people have died in horrific ways, or had horrific things happen in their lives, or they were a horrific person, they're gonna pull those. Like I have a cursed item that I keep under lock and key because of how dangerous that thing is. um
Yeah, I held it one time, and I think it was about a week before I felt okay again.
yeah.
Just trying to pick up psychic energy off of it, like really.
And it's not you shouldn't, like, I mean, yes, people should explore, but people should definitely be very careful. Like when you're invoking a being, it's one thing if you're bringing a being into your space, but when you're collecting like substance materia to connect to a being, and it's not something you can easily just get rid of, um, you definitely have to be careful with that, because you're creating a link, and that's the whole point of collecting these things, is to create links so that you can access those beings, spirits, etc., without having to like be there physically. Like if you're taking dirt from a place and using it in magic, or using it one way or the other, um, whatever function it holds, and you're working with that dirt, and then you return it. If you have an agreement, you return it to wherever, or take it wherever, or do whatever. So it's just one of those things, and I think that I mean you had that horrible experience with it, and I totally get that. And I've worked in graveyards and stuff to some extent, but when I work with spirits, it's a lot different than um, when I do my form of necromancy is a little different, but it's not like, it's just how I work, and I like doing graveyard work. I really do. I think it's great. Um, I think working with, I mean, there's literally dead spirits everywhere.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, they they are attracted to certain spaces
yeah,
that were maybe important to them in life.
yeah, or they're repelled from certain places too.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the interesting thing with like when we were talking about shamanism, when you're working with plants. I mean, technically it's a form of necromancy, because you're when you're working with the the herbs of a plant, you're
Mm-hmm.
conjuring the spirit of the herbs
Yeah.
with the you're conjuring the spirit of the plant with the herbs, and the properties within them, and all that stuff. Like you're activating those, and just to bring up shamanism again, of course, because it's like it's funny because all these things are so interlaced and interconnected in so many ways. um but yeah, uh there's a lot of things that we're working it, like death is so overlooked by so many people because they don't want to see it.
Yeah.
They don't want to
think
yeah.
about it. I know in the atmosphere I grew up in with the church, they believed that if you're psychic, you're actually communicating with demons, because no soul or spirit of a person who's passed on is going to remain, because God will either take them to heaven or send them to hell. And my grandma is actually very, very psychic, and she had an experience. Well, she's had multiple experiences, but she had one particular experience where she was affected very negatively by a being that my aunt was, well, my aunt was caring for a man in a facility that she used to work at. And when he passed, his spirit attached to her, and it made my grandma almost get in a really bad accident because she got in this horrible headspace. And to this day, she believes that it was the man was demonically possessed, and that it was the demon that had been possessing him that affected her. And I've tried to talk to her about stuff, and she's just like, you don't want to do that. Like, she gets very, very upset at me. And I know, like, there's that link that was broken in my family with the spiritual communication with the dead, and stuff like that, where I'm reviving that, and I can't talk to any of my living family members because they believe that I'm that I'm destined for the lake of fire because of what I do. I mean, I think that's a big part of why people are so afraid of, if you're doing necromantic work or stuff like that, because there's the belief that it's all demonic, but it's not actually demonic. You're working with the spirits of the dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and there's nothing wrong with working with the spirits of the dead, even though, I think a lot of times in these religions, that, especially Abrahamic religions, where they condition people to be so afraid and overlook the idea that people are eternal, in a way that it's like, oh, we go on, we live here, we reincarnate, and we're bloodlines upon bloodlines of connected energies and evolution, and that we're carrying our ancestors in us, and then we when we go on, we connect with them, and if we can, we connect with them more in this life. But it's interesting because when I look at how I grew up and how I felt about things, and I look at like how my dad was and how my mom were, my mom is like hyper Christian, and my dad just like didn't care. He wasn't not Christian, but he grew up in the church and all this stuff, and he didn't like it, But it's interesting because like my dad, he is, he's passed on, but there's like my mom is so afraid of this stuff. Like, she's gone even more into the Christian, like deeper into the, and nothing wrong with that. Whatever helps her, but it just worries me because it's like, as things change in the world and in her life, with my family, etc. It's like, it's almost like she's making herself less comfortable with the idea of passing on. And I hate to see that, because I do see it. And it's like one of those things where it's like we, when we see death for the first time, or the first few times, it can be so scary because it's kept from us. Like in India, they, straight up like put it in people's faces that you're like, you're going to die, but in some other countries, it's like, it's
just such a common thing.
Yeah. And people don't fear it. I think they try to, it's almost like someone dies and they try to, in America or the Western world, and they try to hide the body and sneak it out so nobody notices that the person's dead. And then when everybody's like, where did grandma go? It's like, oh, she went to heaven. She went to heaven.
She went somewhere better. Yeah. They're in a better place.
Yeah.
It's the euphemisms. Yeah, I mean, I have such a big problem with the way things are, because I've studied that stuff, the death culture in the Western world and the Eastern world. And I mean, my dad worked in a funeral home growing up, when I was growing up, and I saw the other side of it, and I worked in a funeral home as well, and you're expected to be unseen. You don't tell the family what you're going to do with their loved one when you take it. They're not even supposed to be following you to the funeral home. Like, we had people who were like, "Can we go with you?" And we'd just be like, "Well, I'm so sorry, you know." But we had to be careful because we worked for multiple funeral homes, and they were kind of competitive, but they were owned by the same company. So there were people who were really like staunch supporters of one, and were adamant that the other funeral home was bad and taking advantage of people. Meanwhile, they were owned by the same company. The same people who worked in one funeral home worked in the other one. And so we couldn't let those people find out. And I mean, my dad has stories of the stuff that they did, you know, back in his day in the 80s, 90s. And it's so strange how they try to hide so much behind smoke and mirrors, basically. And then you look at these other cultures, and there's people who will bury their dead beneath their house, and then they'll bring them back out and have them, you know, once they've decomposed to a certain level, they'll literally dress them and put them in. There's like people who put them in spirit houses. They like mummify their bodies and feed them and dress them and have them as if they're still living, but they're, you know, mummified. And there's so many different cultures where it's literally just a part of their life. And then you get out here in, you know, America, and it's illegal to do much of anything other than let the funeral home take care of everything and hide, you know, the fact that your person is going into a freezer unit. Because it scares people.
And that they're going to decompose. Like, they do everything possible to make it so the body doesn't decompose.
Yeah.
And it's like, why are you obstructing, you know, the natural law? I mean, yeah, there's a lot of things that happen where people die horribly, or there's a lot of like upsetting deaths that people aren't ready for, and that the people that died probably weren't ready for. But it's like, you know, you don't need a beautician upon death. You need a preacher. You know, it's like you don't need someone to make you look beautiful. You're not in that body anymore.
Yeah.
And everybody associates, and I get it, because it's the association upon material, like the things we see, and we're like, oh, that's them. We see their body, that's them. Their memories of them, of us with them, that's them. You know, that's their body. That's where all the memories that we have, our recollection ability is based on seeing that face, seeing, you know. And anyways, it's one of those things. And like, in practice, you know, in practice of working with spirits, it's so easy to connect. Like, and I just wanted to talk about this because I thought it was a good little thing. You know, if you wanted to connect with your ancestors, hopefully benevolent ones, just for your own well-being to begin with, you know, like, it's so easy to just set up a little space and write down a little prayer. If you have pictures of only dead relatives, don't put pictures of living relatives on your ancestor altar, because that's asking for them to die. But putting pictures of your living relatives, or dead relatives, non-living relatives. And I said it again.
You definitely...
your dead
that's
relatives.
the dark magic.
Yeah.
Wishing for death.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I just said.
Yeah.
It's like, um, but and you light a candle and a white candle, or for whatever purpose you have, and then you just say a little prayer. Like, it's not that hard. Like, offer some water. You can even, like, I just put water in a cup, but you can, like, dump some out, or say and offer them the water, like physically say, I offer you this water to my ancestors, my benevolent ancestors. You light the candle, I offer you this flame in the darkness, where you reside. And you offer some incense. You're like, this blessed incense, this smoke, hopefully it leads you to me, or something, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
This is just me going off the dome right now. And then you say a little prayer to your ancestors. Like, you can thank them for you existing and passing on everything that they have, whether it was difficult to deal with or positive, and how it affected you. And you can, as these go, the prayers turn into more just you talking to them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's healing in a lot of ways, and helps a lot of people get through that hurdle of, like, oh, like, I'm talking to the dead, or I'm talking to the air, and it's you'll feel it too. I mean, every time I do my work, I feel them,
Mm-hmm.
upon me. They're there. And I had taken a break from ancestor work just because I was doing a lot of other work, and I just didn't have time for it. And when I go back, it's, every time I go back, and I still offer them water and incense and everything. I just don't have time to sit there and do 30 to 40 minutes of work. But it it's one of those things. Like, if you look at the Chinese, Asian cultures, they literally have a space where they are constantly burning incense to their ancestors. Like, they buy incense in bulk. Like, I mean, they go to Costco for that shit. But it's like like they have these giant things of incense that they'll buy, and they literally, I have a Chinese friend, and his family, every day, all day long, if they're at home, they're relighting more incense. They're just continually offering incense to their ancestors. They have this whole thing set up for them, and it's beautiful. And he's like, yeah, it's normal. He's like, I hate the incense. The incense is super toxic. This is super toxic incense. But he's like everybody does it. Everybody in China does that. Like, it's a normal thing.
The
It's
ancestor
normal.
veneration.
Oh yeah, and it's good. It's really good, because you're empowering, and there's so many ways to do that, and there's so much, if you do this daily, it will develop. Like, anything you do for a prolonged period will develop. And if you do that, if you have any interest in it, if you do that daily, you will definitely see a change in the practice, and a change in what you're trying to do there, and an evolution of your work.
Yeah. I actually have a notebook that I'm not doing it currently because there was so much going on that I had to step away for a little bit. But I have a notebook where I would sit down and write out stuff, and like questions and things that I wanted to know, and then I would do like automatic writing of some sort. It feels like automatic writing. What I was told was to just write out an answer that you feel, but it became automatic writing because the handwriting does not look like mine when I do that. And I just try to talk with them every evening, and they'll tell you what they want too, because they'll ask for things. I know I have one spirit who always just wants a little glass of whiskey and a cigar, and that's the thing. I have picky ones, so they always want the what is it, the French cigars. I can't get a hold of them though. But they will make it known what they want, and you don't have to have your ancestors specifically on your altar. You can have pictures of saints. You can have pictures of artists that you admire, or people who are very important to you, or that you look up to, maybe where you want to get to. Maybe there's someone who you admire who has passed on, and it's something that you want to do with your life. You can put that picture up there and try to communicate with their spirit. That's what necromancy is. It's not a big ritual in the dark with the big circle and the runes and the black candles and the chanting. It's literally just sitting down with a white candle and talking to those spirits who are conducive to your own work. And there's definitely you need to be discerning about what you're letting in and who you're letting in. You definitely need to make sure you're opening and closing your ritual space, because they can. I mean, I know Yaman has had a couple experiences with unwanted ancestors stepping in.
Yeah,
I have too.
When I offered beer, and it's so bad. I had an uncle who had a problem with alcohol, and I offered beer because my dad loved beer, and this is back when I used to drink. And I gave a beer, and it was a Tecate because my dad liked a lot of more Mexican beers and cervezas and stuff. And I offered him a beer, and I started smelling it throughout the entire apartment, and started getting this weird feeling, like intense feeling. And it was going on for a while, and then I got rid of the beer, and I still smelled the beer, and I was like, oh shit, like. And I knew it was that uncle because I was getting like intense like just feelings that I could tell what was going on, and I never offered alcohol again. Never. And I loved my uncle. He was wild. He was crass. He was more like my grandpa than my grandpa probably would have liked. But it's just one of those things. Like my dad loved the beer. He was like. He was super happy about it, but it's one of those things where it's like, I've connected to ancestors that just you don't
want those ones.
Don't want those ones around.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, at some point I might, but and that's part of the work that we're doing, with ourselves, whether we know it or not. We're healing these parts of ourselves, whether they're mental, energetic, or in our DNA, in our ancestral lineage. When we're doing anything spiritual, anything that is allowing us to access these parts of ourselves that are locked away, that are stored away, that we can't seem to fully release, and have. It's been years and years, decades and decades, or even centuries of these same things being passed through bloodlines. And the point of us doing the work that we do, whether we know it or not, is to heal ourselves. And not just heal ourselves for ourselves, but for the future and for the past, because we're healing those who came before us. Because we're healing that lineage. We're healing ourselves. We're healing what is within us. And that helps everybody. And I know some people might think, well, I just do magic because I want things, or I just do magic because, some people might literally be like, fuck my family, like I get it. But the truth of the matter is, and I'm not trying to be rude. The truth of the matter is that no matter what we're doing, we're healing ourselves, whether you want to be or not. As in my book, I said, the moment a wound is inflicted, the healing has begun, so it doesn't matter if you want to or not, you're doing it. So, and I'm not trying to be rude. I'm just saying it's one of those beautiful things. It's like, we don't even know we're healing, and we're healing. So it's just how it is. And we're healing everything that came before us and everything that will come after us for its better.
I mean, it's like any type of wound. It could heal badly or it could heal well.
Yeah.
It depends on, like, with a broken bone, you want to set it. If you don't set it, it heals damaged, and you have to re-break it to heal it better. That's the whole thing. Like, do you want it to heal broken? Like, do you want it to heal bent, or do you want to do the hard work and heal it correctly?
Well, and once you figure out that you're healing, then you can really get the ball rolling and put the work in, and then it's amazing how far you can go.
Yeah.
Bounds upon bounds, It's like I don't know why I got the image of someone just jumping really high, and every time they jump a little bit higher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So. I think I wanted to mention this. I think my favorite necromantic ritual was the one we did with the Necronomicon.
Summon the spirit of a dead necromancer.
Yeah, that was my
fun.
Favorite one, because we did a group ritual, actually, and I remember I had done the summoning call, and I had said, like, open your gates, and I can't remember exactly which one it was that we did, but it was like, open your gates and let the spirit through, or I will enter in and release the spirits of the dead. And after that night, I had a dream that there was, like, we were preparing for a zombie apocalypse because I had released the dead, and then the necromancer that we had summoned, I don't know if I should mention his name.
Oh, it's fine.
We summoned Jake Stratton Kent, and I didn't know who he was. I didn't know what he looked like. I just knew that he, was a necromancer and wrote books, very good books, actually. Mm-hmm. But I didn't know what he looked like, and I had a dream with him, and I told HeYamin about it. And he was like, oh, yeah, that's exactly what he looks like. And I looked up pictures, too, later on. I was like, oh, okay. Like, it was a very, very powerful ritual, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'd like to do more of the Necronomicon work. It's so much fun.
Yeah, it's so much funny fun. Because they try to put a necromantic, or a Lovecraftian bent to it, but it is so... It's older than that.
It's not Lovecraft. I personally don't think the Simon Necronomicon really has any feeling of Lovecraft to it. The magic doesn't feel that way. I mean, it just feels like, honestly, like old magic. Mm-hmm. Like, that's what it feels like. It feels like you're doing dark old magic.
Yeah.
Like the dark arts.
And whenever I get into the Necronomicon work, I have very profound dreams, and I actually really enjoy that. That's my favorite kind of necromantic work, is the Necronomicon necromantic work.
There's a book I won't. There's a book on connecting with the angels of death, and like working. I think it's called Necromantic Diary or something. I don't remember. I haven't bought it, but I remember I was looking at it online because it's hard to find copies of it, and people are selling, like, the PDF. But it's really interesting because the book talks about the day of the feast or something, the great feast, like when you die. Yeah. You go off, and there's a great feast that's had when you die. And the lady who wrote the book, she wrote a few books, and that was, like, one that was really popular. And it looked really good, and it has really good reviews, and I read synopsises of it, and there's, like, rituals and, like, super cool stuff in there. You're, like, working with, like, angels of the dead and angels of death, and just connecting with that death. But it's funny because when I looked at the lady who wrote that book, like, when she was younger, she looked totally different than when she looked older. She looked like an angel of death. Like, you can see how, like, the magic changes people. Yeah. And her magic definitely changed her a lot, because it's, like, it's obvious, like, as she aged, and she was only, like, in her 60s when she passed, but in her like 40s and 50s and stuff when I was looking at pictures because I research people, and yeah, I was like, oh damn, like she was working with some intense like Death Angel stuff. Like you
Yeah.
can just see it. You can see it in her face. You can see it in her, like in the way she holds herself and stuff. Just super super cool. I brought that up just because I think that's another side of it that people don't really think of is like, you know, there's a lot of energies. You know, there's a lot of currents, death currents. There's a lot of stuff that when we connect to it, it's going to drastically change. You know, people talk about when you connect to the death current and you start working through it and moving through it, that it forces you to have deaths and rebirths a lot, you know.
Yeah.
And I think people are doing that anyways without knowing it. And I think people are connecting to things, currents, without knowing it too. I mean, the music you listen to, the books you read, the movies you watch, those change you. Those are impressions, and what better way to close out another episode than talking about currents yet again? You know, it's like, but I mean that's one of the things that I think is just super important to think about is like these beings and these energies and these permeations through space and time that we're connecting to, that are changing us and allowing us to exist in their space, and we're allowing them to exist in our space. And the connection there is, you know, these are layers upon layers upon layers on top of each other, and you know, we're all just floating around in you know, a matrix of space and
Yeah.
energy and light and darkness. So, yeah.
Yeah.
What deck do you got there?
I have the horror tarot.
Perfect.
The horror tarot. I should know. Okay. It's by Abigail Larson. Illustrated by Abigail Larson.
Nice.
It's funny because this deck was throwing out so many different cards
Mhm.
throughout this time, but the tower kept falling out repeatedly. And in this one, you have your tower on the corner of an old castle with your lightning, and you see your monster in this lit window. And it always reminds me of Frankenstein's monster. And I know a lot of times when people get this card, they think, oh no, you know, everything's gonna like fall apart now. But the tower is about old structures falling apart to make space for the new. It's actually about a dissolution of what was, so that you can create something new. Which is why this one always reminds me of Frankenstein's monster, because he was creating something new. Like, you know, he was trying to bring back something that he shouldn't have been. But when you really think about it, he was like redrawing the lines of science and adding in magic in that. And then I got the Four of Wands, which is it's about a party, actually. I like to think of the deck as, the entire deck as, it's the journey of the Fool. So you have your major arcana, which is the overarching story, but then in each of the suits, you have the Fool going out and doing different things, either on horseback or walking or by ship. And in this one, it's kind of like the process of, he's been at sea for some time, and he's reached land, and this town or this community that he's encountered has thrown a party, and it's a safe space. It could become a permanent space, but for now it's a celebration, a safe homecoming, a celebration of you've been away at sea for so long, and now you're home, or you're in this new space, and it's time to celebrate the safe landing. And then I've got the Two of Cups, which it's about a meeting of minds. To me, I know the Lovers is supposed to be the ultimate connection, but to me, often the Two of Cups is a deeper connection than the Lovers, because in the Lovers card, a lot of times you have the angel or the overseeing entity, where it's kind of like the controlling factor. If you really think about it, it's like, are you actually the one in control of this connection, or is it something else? And in the Two of Cups, there's not that controlling factor. It's about the deep connection between two minds and two people, and the creation of a new relationship. And I think that's a really good reading, because you're overthrowing the bonds that you've been saddled with, and you're reaching out and making a new connection and celebrating that connection, and it could become a deep and fulfilling thing moving forward. I think that's a very fitting reading for a topic like necromancy, because what are you doing? You're reaching across the bond of death and making a connection with someone on the other side, and it could become a very fulfilling relationship if you go about it correctly.
Yeah, exactly. If. That is all dependent on you.
Yes.
The viewer.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's going to be it for today. If you liked it and you enjoyed this, give it a like if you're interested in that. Subscribe if you would like more of these. Release them every Monday and Friday around 2 Pacific time. And if you ask questions, yeah,
be curious.
Yep. If you have anything to say, go ahead and say it. Our links are all down below, or on YouTube. They're in the bio on the YouTube page. Got links to our website, my website, our Etsy's, separate Etsy's, and I think
that's everything.
Yeah, I think that's everything. I have no idea.
Okay.
But yeah, so if you enjoy these, please stick around, because we enjoy doing them, and we're very grateful to be doing them. And
very grateful for people who listen to us.
Yes.
Rambling.
Yes. We're grateful for people watching them and people subscribing and people enjoying them, because it's I mean, what's the point other than for people to enjoy the things we're creating,
Yeah.
And I find very much enjoyment in that kind of thing, where people are learning and growing and experiencing and changing, or laughing, Not at us, with us, of course.
Yes. Yes. That's right.
Well, I think I covered all the bases. So thank you again. The darkness in me sees and honors the darkness in you. This has been the Devil's Podcast. Thank you.